right, 17 minutes past 8 here on the program. I mean, this must be quite an interesting broadcast for you. I mean, you've been telling me off air that you actually grew up with a lot of the people sitting on the panel.
Yeah, I know most of them on the panel, and it's people that I've worked closely with while I was still in the Free State. So interesting conversations coming from Bloemfontein this morning, talking about youth development and most importantly about disability programs that the provincial government has in that province.
Yeah. But I mean, from a personal perspective, how do you find it? Do you think that through the years it has improved access to education, the youth development? Just, I mean, you're there, you grew up there.
In terms of access of education, they have improved dramatically. So there are schools for the blinds in the province, for the deaf, and I know that it's something that's very close to the Ministry of Education in that province, whereby they ensure that everything, you know, is done accordingly. So they're taking it, you know, to heart, very seriously.
Oh, that's good to hear. Yeah. It's very good to hear.
And
that's
also
amazing.
the fact that the Premier has an advisor in his office that looks into the issue of youth development. I mean, she was even saying that it's something that's very close to her heart as well. You know, talking about that each department has to have someone who looks into the issues of the young people in that province. And I know a lot of people are complaining, saying that you have the youth development officers at different municipalities, but you don't really get to see what they're doing for the development of the young people.
I'm glad to hear that, and it's been wonderful just meeting some of these young individuals that have done so exceptionally well for themselves in the province, and getting PhDs, lovely jobs, and living proof that you can overcome those disabilities. So we'll continue this broadcast. We're going to take a very quick break. As you saw, we were just struggling a little bit with the sound. In fact, are we able to go back now? Apparently it's sorted out. So let's go back to the Free State.
Peter, it's back to you.
The conversation that we were having. Right, welcome back. We are still in the Free State, and we are busy starting Youth Month. It starts tomorrow. Let's just all be mindful of our young people that are the most vulnerable, the most disaffected in many ways, the most unemployed. And guess what? We have the youngest continent in the world as well. There are more young people in Africa than anywhere else on this planet. So the future really is in this continent, and dare I say also in this country. And just to give you a little bit of an idea of why youth with disabilities is also very much in focus, just to give you some statistics, in South Africa we are sitting with something like, in fact, let me just focus on the Free State, because the Free State is with 11.1% of people with some kind of disability, has the highest number of people living with disabilities in all of our provinces across South Africa. So this is why part of this conversation is dealing with people living with disabilities, particularly the youth, who are vulnerable anyway just by being young, but also then there's that added challenge for those with disabilities. And just before the break, I started speaking to Asina Mufokeng, who has been living without hearing, and I just wanted to know from her if government, if South Africa is giving her the opportunity to fully experience all the rights that she has in our constitution.
Good morning. My name is Asina. I grew up in a family of people with a hard of hearing. My grandfather is hard of hearing. My father is also hard of hearing, and myself, I'm hard of hearing. My last brother, he's also hard of hearing. Even my daughter, he's talking, he's fine. But I went to school from Kwakwa, Tabang Fusanyane, and after school I went to Partamia school, and then, but the challenges at school, well, I didn't have any challenges. But then when I was socializing, then the challenges, also didn't have challenges, but then my grandmother, she's the one who had challenges. because she was responsible for my life, because she was taking care of me and she was supporting me and motivating me. Then it was the community who was treating her not well, because they said, oh, you have a child with disabilities, but then my grandmother never stopped caring for me. So that's why I'm proud today, because she had a child, she went to school, and there were no challenges at school, because the sign language was there at school, and the teacher supported me. And then when I finished school, but then at Patamia school, I never completed matric there. But myself, I stand up myself and continue with my studies at Bolton College. Then I finished my matric there. And then at Patamia school, I was awarded with mathematics and English. Again, the time I went to school, I was also employed as an adult tutor. Well, nothing, or adult school education. I was a teacher there. But I didn't have any challenges. Again, I worked at the factory. I didn't have any challenge. I didn't experience any challenges. And now I'm working at DEFSA Association. I'm an auxiliary social worker. Well, I give services to the deaf people, and I already studied at the university for 2 years. So this month, June Youth Month, so this year I'm 35 years old, but I'm still young, but I know from next week I'll be moving to the Premier's office, so I'm proud of myself.
That's a lovely story, and I'm going to probably ask a few more questions in a short while, but I want to introduce other two panelists that have just joined us, and I want to say a very warm welcome to Masangita Maluleke. Welcome to you, and I know that one of the challenges that you faced is living with dyslexia, and just explain what dyslexia is and why it is a challenge.
Okay, thank you, and greetings to everyone at large in the country and everyone at home. As you said, my name is Masingita Maluleke, that means miracles. Dyslexia is a learning disability that you are born with, and it affects your reading, writing, and spelling. So I always grew up knowing that I've got a writing problem from primary until I got to grade 10, but no one actually explained what was this writing problem. And everyone would always say, my teachers would always say, we cannot read what you've written, and my mother would go to meetings and they could not read actually what I've written because they said it was Chinese. But my surprise is this Chinese, I can read my Chinese. So I always thought everyone else had a problem and I was right, because I could read actually my Chinese. And at that time I was the only person who was writing Chinese, until I got to a point when I was in grade 10, we had to write a motivational speech about your life and your journey. I gave it to my friend, wrote it very nice. My handwriting was perfect, because now growing up I always thought I had a writing problem, so I had to perfect my writing. Gave it to my friend to read, and she's saying, I can't read this, and she's being honest. And I'm thinking, read it. And when she's trying to read it, it's not making sense. I'm thinking, child, you don't know how to read. Gave it to someone else, and then until I realized 10 people cannot know how to read that, then it means the problem is with me. Then trying to find out what is the problem. So growing up at that time, not knowing what it is, until I met Ace Nyalleng. Then I explained to her that I've grown up people not knowing what I've got, and she then explained, no, you've got dyslexia, and there's different types of dyslexias. So dyslexia is a disability that you are born with, but it is not physical, because most people, when I say I've got a disability, and they're looking at this beautiful woman and they're thinking, goodness, she's just lazy to work. But dyslexia is actually a disability that you are born with. It affects the brain. So So when I look at it in a much better way, I always say I'm Aus Nyalleng who can see, but my brain is blind because I cannot put together spellings. If you ask me to spell business, goodness, I think I'd write it in my own Chinese way and always think it's business.
All right. So the way you see the letters that you write down, your brain translates it slightly differently to everybody else.
Yes.
And so whilst you can see the word business, the brain is saying it's saying business.
Yes.
But in actual fact, what you've written might be...
It's not even business.
Kaiser Chiefs or something else.
Not even Kaiser Chiefs, because you know, with reading it, then the problem was I went to a mainstream school. I was never taken to a special school at that time, and now every time I tried understanding what other people were writing, I can read it. So every time I'd stand in front and read my own words, and I read it perfectly well. But when the teachers are reading it and they're thinking, as well spoken as you are, you're not writing the same. Is this the same person who's writing or someone else? So they always thought someone else was writing for me when I was at school.
All right, okay. After the break, we're going to speak to Lebohang Monyae, who we've seen a number of times on this program, and it's always good to see him, but you'll meet him right after this.